What's up, Internet, and welcome back to the Engadget Podcast. I'm Senior Editor Devindra Hardawar.
I'm Managing Editor Sherlyn Lowe.
This week, we're joined by Senior Writer Sam Rutherford. Hey, Sam.
Hey, how's it going?
Woo woo!
And also Podcast Producer Ben Elman. Hey, Ben.
Hello.
Hello. It's a big Android week, I guess is what's happening. Samsung announced the Galaxy S25 Edge after teasing that months ago, which, I don't know, is kicking off the super thin phone era, which is something... I feel like it's like 3D TVs. I don't know if it's actually going to be a thing. Is it going to be a thing we even remember after a certain point, or will this be everything? Will every phone be super thin moving forward? We'll chat about that phone. We've got some accessibility news. There's some Android show updates too from Google. We've got a bunch of other news to dive into, including like Apple CarPlay Ultra, which finally started rolling out on very expensive cars. As always, folks, if you're enjoying the show, please be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcatcher of choice. Leave us a review on iTunes. Drop us an email at podcast@engadget.com. We'd love your questions. We'll be answering one today about the Switch 2. And also, hey, your questions now could also roll into our Ask Engadget feature. So if you have a good question, maybe you'll be on multiple sides of Engadget. Send us your notes. Also, we typically do a live stream Thursday mornings. I think we're aiming for 10:30 a.m. Eastern now. Tune in on our YouTube channel. It's a fun time. We'll be showing off gadgets as we will be for this stream. So if you're listening to the audio version, tune into the video. You can actually see Sam play with the new S25 Edge. So yeah, let's talk about that phone. It's a thinner Galaxy S25. We kind of like talked a bit about it when Samsung fully announced these phones, Sam, but what's the full skinny here?
I mean, it is what they said it is. It's a super thin phone. So, I mean, just the quick specs. It's 5.8 millimeters thick, which makes it one of the thinnest smartphones ever made. Mm-hmm. There's kind of some debate about like what's the actually the thinnest phone. But regardless, it's very, very thin. It's 163 grams, so very light, and it starts at $1,100. So in some ways, it's kind of like a mix between the S25 Plus and the S25 Ultra. It has the same 6.7-inch screen. Same size at least as the S25 Plus, but it has the 200 megapixel main camera sensor from the S25 Ultra, and it also has a new kind of Corning Gorilla Glass ceramic 2 screen. But one really interesting thing is that they didn't give it a matte or like anti-reflective coating like you get on the S25 Ultra, because Samsung said that would make it like infinitesimally thicker, and that was not allowed. Clearly, they were like, very clear. Hey, this thing's got to be as thin as possible.
Does that make it glossier? Or...
Yeah, it's kind of your just normal glossy screen, because whatever matte thing that the coating they had going on with the S25 Edge, it was like it's enough of a film that it's detectably thicker, and they're like, nope, not allowed.
That's hilarious. Sam. So you have played with this thing.
Yep, it's
and yes, you're holding it up on the stream now.
Yeah, we just got this in, so haven't done a ton of testing just yet.
Right.
Just to be clear.
Matt Smith on our team for his hands-on went and put it in and out of his pants pocket just to see how well it fit. And speaking of the pants pocket, I think a lot of people on our stream are like, oh my gosh, if I put it in my back pants pocket and sit on it, will it break because it's so thin? Like Tom Rogers is like, it's bendy. What's the over-under on the number of phone bending videos? Sam, are you bending it? Oh my gosh.
Now it's talking to me.
Yep, now it's talking.
Anyways.
It kind of looks like it bent a little.
I mean, it bent a tiny bit, but like it's not something that I think you really have to like actively like worry about.
Is it gonna send bending alert? Like Bixby is like, please
no,
stop.
it's trying to talk back at me now. But anyways.
Yeah. That's funny.
So one thing about like the durability, it also has a titanium frame just like the S25 Ultra. So, it should be relatively durable. And then between that and the Gorilla Glass ceramic 2, I'm actually not worried about the durability at all. It's you pick it up and it's super thin, it's super light, and I think in your pocket the lightness actually makes more of a difference than the thinness. I can't tell a difference between this and like a regular S25 Ultra in my pocket, and just in terms of like dimensions, the weight makes definitely more of a difference there. But the other, there are some kind of downsides to this design. If you look at the back, only 2 cameras, so you get to that 200 megapixel main sensor, an ultra wide, but no dedicated telephoto. So that's obviously one big drawback compared to the S25 Ultra, and
you're
even
paying how much?
The S25 Plus.
How much is this phone with no triple camera?
$1,100.
Wow.
Ridiculous.
And
Yeah.
obviously, the other kind of big concession is that it has a smaller battery life too. So it's got a 3,900 milliamp hour battery, which is smaller than the base S25. And during my demo, the Samsung reps were actually like really candidly like honest about, hey, we know that this thing is going to have better battery life than a base S24, but it's going to be a little bit worse than a base S25. And
Mhm.
so they kind of obviously know that there is some concessions in terms of like we had to make the battery smaller to make it so thin, and that's kind of the big issue. It's also still has that kind of Qi 2 readiness, so it's not full Qi 2. You do need to add on a case with a magnet in order to get that. And
Yep.
Samsung did make their own first party like thin case. And in terms of like trying to make sure that like, normally you think about, hey, if you put a phone in a case, suddenly it's just as bulky as everything else. They have, tried to kind of retain that sleekness, that, thin design with their first party case. But you're already immediately starting to lose a lot of that, that nice, build quality, that engineering when you do put it in a
Mhm.
case.
Yeah, my question for you, Sam, though, is what is the point of this?
Mhm.
Is it just aesthetics? You're paying more for a lesser gadget, but I guess it feels good. It feels nice.
Yeah,
We were just talking about the 12-inch MacBook and how cute that was, even though that had compromises. What do you think?
it's definitely a design play. I mean,
Mhm.
I was talking to some other people, and I think weirdly enough, I think the competitors for this aren't like other traditional smartphones. It's phones like the Moto Razr or even Samsung's own, Galaxy Z Flip line. Because if you want something a little bit thinner, a little bit smaller, more compact, easy to carry around, that this sort of delivers on that, but it does it in a different way than your traditional like flip style foldable phones. And so I think that's kind of more the play. And you know, the other thing like that keeps coming back to me is that we kind of already went through this whole like quest for thinness with phones back in like the mid 2010s, late 2010s.
Yep.
And then, so here's the reason why that kind of push went away is because 5G came around. So if you remember, 5G in the beginning, it had a bigger power drain, bigger battery draw. So
Huge antennas too. Yeah.
right,
Exactly. It was the
and
antennas
huge
needed to be
antennas
placed.
and
Yeah.
thicker modems, and there's a bunch of different components that because of 5G came around, they sort of didn't have the option to do something super thin and super slim anymore. And so that's kind of why that whole trend went away, kind of with the advent of 5G. And now that 5G's been around for a while, you kind of see it's kind of like the fashion game. Everything's cyclical, right? So something's
Mhm.
coming back in style. And so now they're coming back in style with these kind of super thin phones to, hey, maybe you might, catch the attention of some people, maybe some people who aren't like, normal phone people. They go, oh, I do like a thin phone, and they don't really care as much about specs per se.
Yeah, you're saying this one is 5.8 millimeters thick.
Hmm.
Is Samsung slacking a little because the latest iPads, the iPad Pros that we talked about, the super thin ones, the 11 inch is 5.3 millimeters. The
Yeah, I mean,
the 13
it's
inch
a
is
little bit different for
12
iPad
millimeters.
because you have like just more
Yeah,
area to
Space.
spread out a
Yeah.
battery.
Right.
But to me, actually, the funny thing that I thought, and I think I called this like when they first like kind of teased the S25 Edge, is that this phone really is kind of one half of a Galaxy Z Fold. They
right,
just took
Yep.
right.
Galaxy Z Fold,
Yep.
cut it in half, and then got rid of the flexible display and put glass on front. Because here, let me see if I can show you right here. This is a
Yeah.
Galaxy Z Fold 6, and if I hold up the
Mhm,
Yep.
mhm.
look
Yep.
at that. It's almost identically the same as basically half
That's one
the Z
half.
Fold 6.
Right.
That makes sense.
And
That kind
so,
of goes into
you know,
the what people are saying about the thin iPhone, Sam. That's a rumor. Like that
mhm,
could potentially be Apple's stepping stone to doing a foldable too, because once you design the thin plane on one side, it's easy enough to do on both sides, right?
right. And so you kind of see that like I'm not necessarily like they're copying each other, but like almost
Mhm.
Samsung and Apple are finding ways to kind of recycle things that they're already working on or have already produced in order to maybe get a little bit more value out of this because this is still part of the S25 family. This is not like a brand new generation. And so I
Mhm.
think that's kind of where we're at.
Can I just
Yeah.
point out that there's like a couple of really great points in the chat. So
Mhm.
number one, Tom Rogers is like cases will bulk it back up. So like, what was the whole point? Who uses their phone? Everyone that sees me use the iPhone without a case is like, oh my gosh, you use it naked. Seems like people are more about using cases. So what's the point? But I understand that like this is basically half of the folding phone situation. Also, they kind of just wanted to do it. Kevin says is like battery life is low due to the maxed out processor. Sam, what processor is in this thing?
It's a Snapdragon 8 Elite, but it's one of those customized for Galaxy
Mhm.
versions.
Right.
And so I haven't done a ton of performance testing, but it's not. I wouldn't worry about the performance in terms of like multitasking or app loading or even playing games.
Right.
Samsung even said that they managed to fit a vapor chamber inside here, so I really wouldn't worry about the performance in terms of that.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
there'd be like a little bit of throttling, but that's more of a heat management thing in terms of
Yeah.
rather than like just all out performance capabilities at least.
This thing's available like soon, right? May
Yeah,
with
the
pre-orders like
end of the month.
immediately.
So it's already available for pre-orders now. It'll be
Mhm.
officially on sale. I believe it's May 30th.
So question is, Tom Rogers is like 1100. Is that pre-tariff or post-tariff? Now Korea is kind of where these are coming in from, or are they coming in from some
Yeah,
kind of
so
local?
I did ask about that, and
Good.
as far as we know, or at least current things, unless something tariff related happens again, $1,100 is the base U.S. price. So
Okay.
there's that.
Okay.
Yeah, and Samsung.
Gosh.
I'm just looking up. Samsung phones are made in Vietnam and India, so
Oh boy.
same thing.
Um.
Wants to put more production in India as well for tariff reasons. Yeah.
Exactly. DPro9 confirms what we were saying by commenting, I have never not had a case on my phone. So
hmm
I am vocally very anti-case. I understand why people
Yeah.
do it, but to me, it's like companies spend millions of dollars kind of trying to engineer these things, and so for the same reason, I don't like using cases. I have started using skins on phones just to,
Mm,
You know, that's
give
something.
a little bit of extra cushioning, but that's skins are thin; they don't really
yeah.
impact the overall feel and kind of dimensions of that.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
like how your argument is companies are spending millions to design these things because consumers, Sam, are spending thousands of dollars on these phones. Put it,
Okay, but sure, right.
yeah, put
So,
your protective
well,
stuff
allow me to retort. Do you have a case on your car? I know Sherlin doesn't drive, but
People have
Devindra, do you
ClearCoat.
have a case on your car?
I have clear coat on my car. A lot of people have clear coat on their cars.
So
People
clear coat is
That's a
great,
skin.
but
paint.
a clear coat is closer to a skin than a case, right? Because it doesn't impact the look, it
I'm not
doesn't
holding
impact
my
the feel.
car. Yeah,
And
I'm not
so
holding
it's
my
like
car. It's a whole.
so I guess the best comparison is you remember anyone who uses those old school car bras that like are made of leather and they go on like the front bumper of your
Oh
car?
my god, did you just call it a car
Those
bra?
That's what they're called. Go look them up. And so
They still
people
exist.
don't use those because they suck and they make your car look ugly in the same way that cases make your phones suck or at least thicker and
Car
they make your
bra.
I
phone
guess
look ugly
we're,
too.
we're going off on a tangent here. Those things are all over New
Car
York,
bra.
Sam. You know why they're all over New York is because New Yorkers don't know how to like park without bumping into the cars in front
Oh
or
god.
behind them. So that's a part of parallel parking. They still exist, those car curtains. But
Yeah.
anyway, Sam,
There's a
when you
difference
pair a
between the
phone-
car bras and the bumper bullies, though.
Oh,
That's all I'm gonna say here.
it's a whole different thing. Yeah, well, the bumper bullies, same thing. We're gonna have this argument over and over again. I kind of feel like from Samsung, this is another Galaxy Note like throw. Just like, is this a thing? Are you guys into this? Cool. Anybody? Whereas
Mm.
what Apple did with the iPad Pro, which I don't see too many people thinking about now, but we're talking about. The first time I saw one of those when we did WWDC last year, it was kind of a holy shit moment of like how is this thing so thin? You kind of want it because it's so thin, but it's not like a special iPad Pro.
Mhm.
It's just they made the iPad Pro thinner. I feel like eventually that's what Samsung is going to do. Maybe eventually what Apple's going to do. Those compromises, though, we want a telephoto lens. People love telephoto lenses.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things people are going to compromise on just to get a slightly thinner phone. Like how much thinner is this than the base Galaxy S25? Is it no?
The base S25, it's like a millimeter or two.
Yeah.
It's really not a ton.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think my bigger concern would be battery life and also that heat dissipation. I don't know that the vapor chamber alone will be good enough. We'll see. I mean, it's the same custom tuned processor as in the other three S25s. So yeah, we will have to see, I guess. Sam will publish his review soon enough, so I guess come through to read
I
that.
know what listeners think. Engadget.com. Are you intrigued by super thin phones? Because Apple's going to do it. All the rumors are pointing to Apple doing it. Will they do it differently? Will it even matter? Is it just a design stepping stone to the foldable or something else for Apple? We'll see. I guess Apple kind of already did it with those iPads too, because those things are ridiculous. I would not recommend most people buy them, but if you go to an Apple store, just take a look at like how wildly thin those things are.
So for the record,
mhm.
a base S25 is 7.2 millimeters,
Oh my
and
god.
this thing is 5.8. So we're really talking about the difference of about a millimeter and a half.
That is noticeable, and this is the bigger screen. So I think for the style
Mm.
oriented folks, we were just talking about the 12-inch MacBook Sherlin, which you were showing off, and that thing was so cute. It didn't make much sense. When I reviewed the Surface Pro, the new one, the 12-inch one, it's the same idea. That sure is cute, even though it's a slower processor, worse screen, yada yada yada. Sherlin has the 12-inch MacBook, which was look at that sucker. It's still
Look
beautiful.
how
Go look at the live.
thin. Look how I could slice cake with it.
It is
Not
something
butter.
that was the bad. That's the bad keyboard. That's the butterfly keyboard.
Yes, I don't
And
mind
so,
it.
so
It's got basically no travel. It's quite awful.
no
But
travel, slow processor. But anyway, people want thin, weirdly attractive gadgets. I guess we want cute stuff.
Yeah, for me, the whole quest for thinness is kind of already reached an endpoint. And
Mhm.
so, like, talking about, hey, we've shaved off another millimeter, to me, it's not meaningfully different. Now, that said, I'm not going to name any names, but when I was at my hands-on demo, there were some other outlets and people from some other, websites over there, and they were just drooling over this thing. So
name the
maybe I'm in
names.
the minority.
Sam, embarrass people. Yeah.
They like couldn't stop talking about how nice it felt in the hand, and it feels really like you pick it up, and if as long as you're not worried about the durability, which I'm not really, it definitely feels nice. You appreciate it. It does feel a little bit futuristic, a little science fiction, just because of how thin it is. But I don't know, just for me, the appeal is not there. It doesn't change. It doesn't really change how I feel about the S25 family. But I'm not upset that it exists.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll hear more about the S25 Edge in the coming weeks, folks. Stay tuned. Do we want to take a break here to do Q&A or show off this thing off, or keep going?
Let's go through everything till other news, you think, and then do
Yeah.
questions. I don't think.
Yeah,
Listen,
I agree.
I may have derailed the chat with the car bra talk.
Oh no, you're fine.
It's okay,
It's
but like
great.
let's
It's
keep on
okay.
going
Hi,
because like
Chooch.
Yep.
Galaxy, like all Samsung phones are like Android phones, so let's just
Yep.
keep on going.
And Tom Rogers is saying I'm an assassin. Yeah, I kill vibes.
Kill
gosh,
vibes,
okay.
man. Okay. Let's go on. All right. Speaking of Android phones and the Android ecosystem in general, there's a bit of the Android show this week where Google announced some things ahead of I/O. What the heck is Material 3 expressive? Google's so bad at naming these things. Someone describe it for me.
So in general, material design is sort of something that Google has been kind of championing or pioneering on Android stuff for quite a while. I think it dates back to like the mid 2010s as like the original material. And Material 3 Expressive is sort of kind of trying to finish the game when it comes to material and really actually make the UI a little bit more interesting, a little bit more animated. They're talking about more vibrant colors and just basically kind of doing stuff to make sure that the UI just looks better, but it's also easier to use. So that includes stuff like, there's going to be some new haptic rumble features for different things, and there's going to be, more adherence to a lot of the Material 3 design principles, and that includes like, floating bars that make, UI elements easier to see, and new backgrounds and stuff like that. And one thing that I'm actually kind of excited about is that it looks like they've kind of opened up the color palette for Material 3 design, because currently, like, if you want to do that like matchy thing where your icons and stuff match the wallpaper, at least color wise, you kind of have to choose one of Google's like, limited range of mostly pastel colors. And so this looks like it's bringing some more vibrancy back into that color palette, or at least the color choices. And so basically, it's another kind of design UI UX overhaul to make, the Android feel a lot more engaging. And kind of at this point in the Android kind of life cycle, where there's not a ton of like big missing omissions that people want added to the platform, in terms of like excitement about, Android updates, this is going to be kind of nice. I'll be excited to test it out especially when it goes like
Sam,
officially live later this year. Yeah.
during the Android show and or during a briefing we attended, there was a lot of use of this word. I don't know if you noticed. This word, I don't know if the word was bouncy or if it was springy, but it gave me like the idea that Material 3 Expressive is also about the animations, is also about the idea of
Very much so. Yeah.
responsiveness. Yeah. Plus, and the other thing I'm sure you also mentioned already, but like I want to shout out the toolbar, the live updates thing, very similar also to Apple's live activities. Again, we're going like everyone's copying each other. Like Google had a
Yeah, I
version
mean,
of the live activity thing in its notification shade for a while, and then Apple did it, and then now they're doing it a different way on Android. So go ahead, Sam.
Oh yeah, I mean, to be clear, like Android did have some like limited like like progress bars in the notification thing,
Right.
and this is kind of an expansion of that, because like say you want to order an Uber, you're going to get a little bit more granularity on like when the car's arriving or when your delivery might be arriving. But yes, it is, I'm sure that the designers at Google are aware that what Apple is doing with the dynamic island
Right.
exists, and so they're kind of cribbing off each other a little bit, but it's mostly an expansion of things that kind of already exist. But to your point, like they did mention like kind of the springiness and the animations in Material 3 a lot, because I think it just makes things a little bit more visually appealing, but also more eye-catching. So if you see something that's bouncing around your screen, it's a lot easier to like, oh, maybe I need to touch that or see what it can do.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a little more delightful. Like, Google has never been a very good design oriented company. Like when they started Material, I think that was the sign where I was like, oh, Android's getting a little better. Android's getting a little more interesting. This is like when a magazine gets a new design lead and they're just like bold colors, big fonts. Neon. Let's go all over the place. There's some examples in Google's blog posts. It looks good. It looks more alive and more modern.
Oh no. Tom Rogers is saying, was there less AI talk in the Android show? And yes, there was. And so that's actually a good question, because people were like, why are we even having an Android show? Google I/O is literally next week. And I think that was kind of a play by Google to be like, hey, at Google I/O, and they haven't said this officially yet, but everyone can kind of tell it's coming, we are going to talk a crap ton about AI and Gemini and everything machine learning at Google I/O. And so by having this Android show a week early, it kind of it gives Google a chance to kind of break out in a gadget specific, Android specific stuff a little bit earlier, and kind of give it a little bit more room to breathe. And then they can hit us over the head with the AI hammer next week.
And hang on, that's not to say there was no AI at all. There was less, like you said, at the Android show. And Tom Rogers, to be very clear, all the AI talk's probably going to be saved for next week at actual I/O. But Android show also unveiled that Gemini was coming to all kinds of other devices across the Android ecosystem, like the Wear OS watches, which I saw. For some reason, Deepro9 in our chat is very excited about. Cool. Android Auto or cars with Google built-in will also get Gemini, and also I believe Google TV. I don't know what the experience is like in cars with Android Auto or cars with Google built-in right now. Sam, do you have any like impressions so far if Gemini will be a good thing to those platforms?
I mean, it'll be a fine addition, but it's like, I always come back to the thing where it's like, sure, it'll be great to have Gemini in, Google TV, in Android Auto, cars with, Google built-in. This is all fine and great, but it's like, I'm just thinking, how many times do I actually how much time of my day do I spend talking to AI? And it's like, right now, it's not that much, and I don't think that's going to change a ton. Now, Google said that they're bringing Gemini to the watch and to basically all the platforms, which we kind of known is coming. And especially on the watch, it'll be nice because if you're, for example, if your Pixel Watch has LTE functionality, it doesn't need to be tethered to your smartphone to get responses. It can just do that using its own connection. Or if you're at the gym and you're close enough to your phone, you can still set reminders and then talk to Gemini that way, which is all great. And they said that, like, for example, with Google TV, you'll be able to ask Gemini to do stuff like find age appropriate movies for children, which is like, okay, sure. But how often are you really doing that?
That is smart until, and I saw this on Reddit, the assistant or whatever recommendation engine tells you that these hentai animes are cute cartoons for kids. Like
anime, man. It's just
cartoons. And so this goes back to like, the fallibility of AI. It's like, it still can't really trust everything it tells you. And so, hey, that's kind of comes with part of the package.
Can't really trust most things it tells you, apparently. There's also news about better security features, right? Coming to Android, scam detection find feature
Yeah.
on Android. Yeah.
I actually like this. So
Mhm.
so I believe that the Pixel phones have been at the forefront of this anti-scam, anti-spam measures
Mhm.
built into a phone. They've been historically much better than Apple at detecting when incoming calls are spam and screening them for you. I really like the call screening features. And Apple still has not been able to properly replicate or deliver like a comparable product, in my opinion. So anyway, this week's news with that is in terms of when you're answering a call or talking to someone on the call, and the AI, which somehow is listening, I guess, is like, this is starting to veer into scam territory. It will detect it
Yeah.
and alert you or flag it, and then also it's improved the system to better identify now newer or new trends in scams. So road tolls is one of them, and I believe Bitcoin/crypto is another. I would love for them to start hitting the ones that are like, we have a job for you. Interview. I work for HR at this weird company in Maine. I don't know. So that's one of the pieces of news. And then also they're refining the Find My interface into what they're calling the Find Hub. And I think one of the more intriguing pieces of news there is that satellite connectivity or the support for satellite connectivity is coming, which may be, again, familiar to some on the iOS ecosystem as the SOS via satellite, emergency SOS via satellite, or locating people via satellite. Not a lot of details were shared at the Android show. I'm not sure if they'll actually be shared at Google I/O too. I think they'll actually wait until much later in the year, maybe closer to the Pixel launch, to tell us more about that.
Yeah,
I wonder if I
they
missed
said
anything. Yeah.
they said the scam detection also applies to a lot of tech scams too. And this is one
Yes.
of those things where you think, oh, machine learning is such a good fit for stuff like this
That's
because
right.
it can read a lot of incoming scam texts, see how people respond, and kind of update itself a little bit faster
Yes.
to be able to recognize the stuff better. And they specifically mentioned like toll road scams, gift card scams, crypto scams, which has been issue for a while. And
Right.
so I think that's this is actually one of those like, oh, this is a really good application of machine learning and AI technology.
Yeah.
I saw,
Yeah.
and on this topic, I saw a Harvard Business Review Instagram post about top Gen AI use cases and how they changed from 2024 to 2025. In 2024, the top use case was generating ideas. Specific search was the third place. Exploring topics of interest was fifth place. In 2025, this year, therapy/companionship is top, which I know some people do that.
I feel like
Number
that might be a little
two,
too far, but okay.
well, our friend Alex Kranz does that a lot with Claude AI, so we'll see.
Wow.
And
Way
then
to throw
two,
Alex out there.
I know. Well, she talks about it quite publicly. Number 2 in 2025, organizing my life. Number 3 in 2025, finding purpose. It sounds like the uses for Gen AI are being refined. I think they're less fact-based and more existential nowadays.
I also think that people are sort of exploring more about how to use AI, and instead
Yeah.
of just simply, hey, I'm gonna ask questions and try to get answers, they're trying to
Right.
like actually, have more of
Push
a
it.
like relationship with AI, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of like AI companionship stuff and people, making boyfriends or whatever on
Some of them actually falling in
on
love.
ChatGPT. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
This is it feels like every month there's like a new story kind of like about that. So people are almost using AI to like find purpose or find guidance instead of
Yeah.
answer questions now, which
Sam,
is kind of an
that-
interesting
funny.
transition.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask either of you if you have do you use AI a lot? I know we've talked about this so much before, but has it changed?
Only
And have you picked it up more?
only on like a tool specific purpose. I do it for transcription stuff, both locally
Right,
and in
same.
the cloud, like, the whole bunch of stuff. Sam, how are you?
Yeah.
using it?
I mean, I still love AI transcription. The Pixel Recorder app is one of like the most
Oh my
used
God, me
apps.
too.
On a daily basis. This is something that we should probably look into just like professionally. Is I heard about a new AI thing that can ingest like a website or publication's style guide and apply that to your
Sam.
writing.
Please.
I would
I'm
love
sorry,
for the
but
two
this
of you
is-
to
this
try
is,
that.
this is a legitimately good idea. I'm not like I don't want them to change the language, but if they notice, hey, this word is should be styled this way, just go
Right.
ahead and change it in the same way that like spell check changes, like,
That
misspelled
is really
words.
smart, Sam. Actually, wow. I the number of times I have to tell people on the Engadget team where to put a comma and where not to is ridiculous. I would be very excited for us to have that in
Yeah.
house. So
And some other like interesting AI applications is like,
Mhm.
there's for like legal text, you can like, go in and set a bunch of words and then have an AI read a text and automatically redact that stuff, which seems like a
yeah,
really kind of just like good expansion of like, being able to fill and replace certain things. And so that seems like a really natural evolution of stuff. I still be a little worried if I was a lawyer about like, oh, what happens
exactly.
if the AI misses something and then that unredacted text gets out into the public and then you
Hmm.
have a whole big issue. But
It
at
should
least the
only
idea seems good.
it should only ever be a first pass because there have been so many
Absolutely.
examples of
Right. You're
lawyers.
still gonna have to do a
Yeah,
manual review. Absolutely.
yeah. Lawyers have already used AI to like draft statements to the court and things, and judges are like, "What the hell is happening? You're pointing to precedent that does not exist. You're
Yeah.
making stuff up completely." I just want to point out the more we talk about like how humans are learning to live with generative AI, the more it does feel like we're kind of doomed, aren't we? Like
Yeah.
our monkey brains, which have used things in the past like superstition and religion, and I'm not going to get too controversial here, but to explain the world, and now we have this tool that you can have a relationship with that is kind of doing some of that for you. This is the Wall-E future. This is so much of the I don't know. I don't Is
Yeah.
humanity equipped to live with the consequences of generative AI? We shall see, because
Yeah.
it's not looking good right now.
No, it's
We've
not.
got some
Scary.
accessibility news as well. Global
Yes.
Accessibility Awareness Day was this week, right, Sherlyn?
So it is actually today as we're recording the podcast, May 15th is it's usually the like second Thursday of every May. I might be
Mm-hmm.
misremembering, but yeah, this year it's today. And so every tech company in the last few years has been just taking this opportunity to, either share or announce new accessibility features. So for example, Apple announced a whole ton of updates. And I think
It's a very
quite a
long
lot of them are
post Sherlyn
useful.
wrote. Yeah,
Say that again.
that's a very long post you wrote about.
It is a really long couple of posts, and actually 3 posts, because
Yeah.
first one we broke out was the accessibility nutrition labels. That's what Apple calls them, coming to the App Store. So very similar to the privacy information label that's already in App Store, telling you what an app gets on you, right? The data that they're tracking or using from you. Rolling out later this year will be accessibility and nutrition label. So it'll tell you things like, oh, if this app meets the criteria according to their developer for things like larger font or increased contrast or differentiate without color alone, which is really important because I play so many matching games. And if they're all on color alone, if you're colorblind or you have some sort of other visual impairment, then yeah, that game is not playable. And you don't want to wait till you download the game to find out in the settings that there's no colorblind mode. So
Mhm.
this is going to be helpful. And also the gaming industry is trying something like that too. So we will see. Hopefully this comes to more apps, programs, software services in future. I guess I didn't mute my MacBook. The there's another slew of features,
Mhm.
including I just want to point out one thing that was buried in like other updates, and like a small bullet point was Apple added a new protocol for brain-computer interfaces, so
Mhm.
BCIs, into its switch input suite of tools. So switch input is basically allowing you to connect a button or a joystick or whatever and use that as a switch input for using your devices, computers, or phones. And adding the protocol for BCIs basically means that one day, theoretically, in my post originally, when I saw that, I was like, this theoretically means you can use your brainwaves to control your devices. And not that you couldn't already do some sort of eye gaze or other hands-free control, but BCI is very different. Wouldn't you know it, the next morning, Wall Street Journal has the exclusive report on Apple wants to allow you to control your devices with your thoughts. They've teamed up the startup that makes BCI devices, Synchron, announced yesterday or Tuesday that it is the first to natively work with iPhones, iPads, and Apple Vision Pros. So I know. Let's set aside the behind the scenes of this, of how infuriating it is to find out the morning of that something you suspected was going to be big news was actually someone else's exclusive report.
No, I'm sorry.
However,
No. I gotta interrupt. This is not big. This is not big news. BCI.
I know,
The hard part about
understand.
BCIs is getting the information from your like squishy brain into a digital form. Once
Yeah.
you have like the digital signal, being able to like accept, bits and ones and
the new
zeros
protocol.
and like manipulate a smartphone. That's the
Yeah.
easy part. That's an API. I'm not.
No, you're right. The
I'm not gonna give
protocol
Apple
here.
a bunch of credit for inventing something that they
I'm
just like no.
I'm just
it doesn't work.
complaining about the behind the scenes part of
Yeah,
this. where I'm like,
I
annoyed,
get it. It's
but
just
anyway.
like
I will say
both.
so
I
this
think
is
Apple and that Wall Street Journal story are kind of pumping it up to be something way bigger than it is.
oh, maybe the startup is Synchron, maybe. To your point though, like it is a very grabby headline, right? It's like, oh, you can use, and Synchron had released a video about a month ago to be like, oh, you can use the Force to control your iPad with your thoughts alone. It is overselling it a little bit because, like, again, to my understanding, and I might be wrong, depending on the OS, switch input control can be very binary. It can be quite difficult to properly set up. So, especially with BCI, the ones that I've tested so far, the Muse headbands and whatnot, they're all very, again, intensity based, right? Like if you think hard enough, then we will flip to yes. And if you don't think very hard, then we'll flip to no. Like it's, my understanding is limited. Of course, I haven't spent enough time with these devices. I don't know how sophisticated they are these days, but this is one step towards implementing BCI with a very mainstream catalog of devices like the Apple devices, even if it is quite limited right now. I will say, to your point, Sam, there's a lot more other accessibility updates from Apple that are probably more important.
That everyone
magnifier
will be able to see immediately, probably, or very soon.
Yes. Soon. Usually these roll out with the next version of iOS, iPadOS, macOS. So starting with Magnifier for Mac. Basically, Magnifier has been available on iPhone and iPad for a while. It's the app that you open and use your camera to point at things, and then it'll either read out to you if it detects a doorway or a sign, or you can use it to like make things in your world easier to read. That's why the name Magnifier. So MacBook never had that before. Now you can use your phone as a camera or any other USB connected camera and use Magnifier for Mac. I think they showed a video of a person using this in a lecture hall, sitting very far away from the whiteboard and being able to use their phone, clip it to the top of their MacBook and then kind of see the whiteboard more clearly, increase contrast, put a color filter on, depending on your accessibility needs.
That's cool.
There's really a whole lot more. I mean, there's updates coming to personal voice to make it easier to set up. There's improvements coming to vehicle motion cues. There's an accessibility reader that's built into Magnifier for Mac, as well as just Magnifier in general, which makes things that you want to read easier to read. It'll parse out the distractions. So kind of like, I was immediately thinking, oh, we can remove ads from those articles that I hate to read because of the ads. I don't know yet. I haven't tried it out.
That. Yeah. What the cool example, the top image that you're showing is somebody having their phone on a stand and the camera is doing like the desk view thing. So it's pointing down at a book and then it's looking at the text of that book, which looks like really fine text. Bringing that over to big fonts on the actual computer.
Yes.
I used to help a lot of people in college, especially older professors, and man, this sort of thing would have been so useful for them to like quickly look through tiny font books. Yeah.
Oh yeah, exactly. Menus, flyers, these kinds of really old books. I mean, I think the one of the examples Apple provided for accessibility reader, which is basically this part of the feature built into Magnifier. Magnifier is what enables desk view. It's Odyssey, the book Odyssey, which is like, I'm sure we would like
the Odyssey,
the Odyssey. So
helpful. Yeah.
Yes. Soon to be theatrical experience.
I truly cannot remember like most of what else. I think there's some improvements coming to music haptics. Look, I got the information, parsed it in 12 hours, and wrote about like 1,200 words on this. Well, hang on.
Well, I can go through Braille Access, which it could be cool.
Braille Access is good,
Live captions, Vision Pro getting live recognition. That's cool. A lot of things, a lot of little things here.
So many little things.
Poor Sherlin was stuck with sometimes it's just like, hey, this is a core concept. We're in and out in like 400, 500 words. And sometimes it's like, Here's
Yeah,
every.
sometimes it's like so many little things. Yeah, they're all kind of worth shouting out. I will point out that other companies also are making announcements this week. There are some we can't talk about just yet, but we will find out later today. But Kia also made an EV that is designed to be friendly for wheelchair users. Amazon very helpfully is reminding people in a blog post what accessibility features they do have if you were not aware before, but they don't seem to have announced anything new just for this week. So yeah, I would say I am working on something accessibility related as an article for this week. So come back to Engadget.com for all the details.
I think we can take a break here. Do the Q&A stuff. How is
Kevin says is showing or sharing a story about their disabled son. Wow, I didn't know you were a disabled accessibility consultant. Kevin says,
that's great.
I would love to talk more. So
Yes, that'd be super helpful. What's going on in the chat? This thoughts on the S25 Edge or whatever else we were talking about.
I'm just seeing the recent ones. Declan echoed Sam's thought, which is, haven't we been a year away from brain interfaces for decades now? This is like cold fusion. Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong. Like the idea of BCIs is very interesting and has a huge impact on accessibility and a whole bunch of other stuff. But like, if we want to do like a quick like ranking of like far out tech and what is like closest to becoming like viable, I would say like VR headsets and like AR glasses are way closer than mainstream BCIs. That is like kind of out there, but maybe closer than BCIs. That's debatable. I'll definitely hear arguments on that. And so like, I think it's always good to like kind of put in context, like, how tangible is this and how far away is it from actually becoming like something that, regular people can access or use on a daily basis.
Sorry, I think the stream blinked out for a second, but we're okay.
Yeah, it did blink out for a second, but I think we're fine.
I hit some key accidentally and it like deleted the scene in OBS. I don't know.
Oh no.
What are you doing? All right, I'm
So
gonna
if you
run to the
say
bathroom. You
anything,
guys keep doing your things. Yeah.
Yeah, if you say anything about AGI being very far off, people start throwing rotten fruit at you these days.
Good. Or impossible.
But like, also think about it. The people who are throwing like rotten tomatoes at you are the people who are like, oh my God, like this is the one place where like VC money is flowing in. So don't you dare say anything to turn that faucet off.
Yeah. And so it's like, I think it's really important to like be realistic about how far things out in terms of like, how are they going to impact our lives and how, the industry at large is kind of tackling, some very different and potentially powerful tech. And then, kind of bringing it to, the mainstream.
I think it's really interesting what Kevin says in the chat is saying brain interface Apple accessibility API is super interesting / you can control iOS with your mind. Kevin says it sounds like you're a bit of an expert in this, so why don't you send us your thoughts, podcast at Engadget.com, or if you want to send it directly to me, like CHER at Engadget.com. I'd love to learn more about this. Like, is it like what I described, just binary / intensity spectrum based, or is it more sophisticated? Yeah, let us know.
Right. And even if you talk about like some of the, like the actual BCIs, like, what Neuralink is doing,
Yes.
they've been very public or, about, implanting the sensors into people's brains is very, very difficult. And they, the success rate is kind of iffy at best.
Yes.
And that said, there have been reports talking about, someone had a BCI put in them and, at least half of the probes or sensors fell out. And they were still able to use it, and they like even at like not less than optimal functionality, they were still really welcome to have this technology. And so, I think it goes to show you how powerful potentially these things could be. It's just trying to translate your actual brain waves into a digital signal is going to be very difficult, and
incredibly difficult.
It's a long road we're on.
Oh yeah. Declan,
so I have a comment here from Turbine, spelled with a 1, that is definitely not talking about Braincomputer computer interfaces, but I think that it's funny anyway. Wait for that jerry rigging everything video. Lol.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jerry Rig everything's probably going to take out the new S25 Edge. Declan made a funny comment. Was Material 3 not expressive, so they had to do a new version of it that was more expressive, or is that just how we're now code wording our code words? I think that's why they say it's bouncy and springy so much. That's why
Or
it's
color.
expressive.
I
Color.
think
Yeah.
there is a little bit of a sentiment that like the previous version of Material didn't fully deliver on the like excitement and trying to make things interesting and feel lively in a way that people wanted. And so this is kind of the like part 2 of that. They're kind of trying to make sure that like, hey, all the stuff we talked about, 2 or 3 years ago, we're getting back to that, and we're finally making it happen. So I think
Yeah.
that's they're definitely hitting on that sentiment.
That's a hilarious, very typical Google fail, by the way. Like in terms of like, hey, here's Material design. This is going to be our flashy new version of Android. It's rounded edges. It's slightly cleaner typefaces, but it's still very, very dull and boring. So Google. And then I think almost a long while, years later, like, oh crap, it's not enough. We need color. We need to. the stats is this is hitting the youths. The really young users love color and love expressive design. It took Google almost a whole decade to realize that. Amazing stuff.
I think we can move on, but I wanted to point out Tom Rogers was very disturbed by Sam out there with your phone naked.
I see more naked phones in the wild than I think people realize. Granted, like I think probably maybe 75-80% of people use cases. But there's some of us. There's some of us out there. There's dozens of us out there.
It's dozens of you. When I see a lot of naked phones, I see a lot of cracked screens. I see a lot of like broken backs of.
Ooh, hang on.
Yep. Uh-oh. Sherlin's gonna show a dead phone, a dying phone. Yeah, what happened there?
You can't. Oh, there it is.
I can't see. What happened?
Did you crack the phone?
Yeah.
You can kind of see it on the screen.
At least the rear screen crack is like, who cares?
Oh yeah, now you can see it. Because I soloed the video.
Yep.
That's a pretty big crack. It's a good.
It's not the only one.
Mm-hmm.
The corner is really bad. There he is. There, look.
Oh yeah, there we go.
Mm-hmm.
There's no like there's no like body of evidence in like ER visits or anything that anybody's like cutting their fingers on cracked like back glass.
I'm sure they are.
I'm sure it happens.
Right.
But it's kind of in the same vein of like they have like special glass for windows that is designed to break into little pieces instead of giant shards that will cut you.
Yep.
And it's they use similar tech and phones.
Let me tell you, the worst phone break I had was like on the sidewalk in Taiwan when we were there for Computex, and I can actually point to the exact sidewalk because we go back there all the time. But it like shattered my iPhone. It was like an iPhone 8, and I had to fly back with that. I had to use that, and that's like I had to make sure I didn't slide my screen too hard. Like I have another one. Finger. It was not good. So ever since then, you know why you use cases? It's like why you have house insurance. It's why you have car insurance. It's if your phone falls, your life is not ruined immediately. Like you don't have to go. You don't always have time to go to the Apple store and get it fixed or whatever. So it's a whole thing.
All right.
Move on. Yep.
Let's get to other news.
Let's go, and I'm gonna pull up this so you can show the image. Wish there was an easier way to do this. Okay. Yeah. Let's move on to some other news. And speaking of Apple-y stuff, we finally saw the unveiling of the so-called next generation CarPlay that they've been teasing for a while. It's called Apple CarPlay Ultra. It's going to be debuting in Aston Martin. This is the version of CarPlay that not only like goes in the infotainment center screen, but also takes over the like main HUD that is in front of the steering wheel. And I remember when they like first announced this, people were a little skeptical, a little iffy about Apple taking almost full control of your car's interface. Sam, you've looked at like the recent cars. You're using a modern car at this point. What do you think about this idea of like CarPlay being everywhere?
So, historically, there's been a big fight between like Google and Apple and car makers themselves because people want to be able to use like a UI or an interface that they are comfortable with. And for most people, that interface is their phones. But the car makers didn't want to give up control about what goes on the screen. And so that's why you have kind of like over-the-top services like Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Now that kind of changed a little bit with like Google built in and having like, Polestars and some other companies where, they are relying on kind of a Android or Google kind of platform underneath, and then they can style that to be however I want, but they still support Google apps natively.
Right, right.
And this sort of seems like what Apple CarPlay is doing. It's closer to Google built in on cars than Android Auto. And so it's really interesting to see that, like, it seems like Apple has made some concessions where like they're allowing like Aston Martin kind of customize the look in the UI and have different themes so that even though it is Apple CarPlay Ultra, it still looks Aston Martin-y. And I think that kind of, we've seen car makers kind of fumble when it comes to having just awful infotainments, and it was worse 5-10 years ago, and it's been getting a little bit better, partly because of CarPlay and Android Auto. And so this is kind of the next step for companies that like are more, I guess, on the Apple side of things, where like they want to have a big name partner and a UI that people are familiar with, but they also want to be able to have a consistent approach across multiple screens in the car, which is very much this. I'm just kind of unclear about if this means that everything is still being tethered from the phone, including all your data and stuff like that, or if there's actual some sort of Apple code running on the car itself. And I'm not quite clear on that yet.
Yeah, that's a question. Like, if your phone is not paired, the whole thing about CarPlay is either you have to plug it in or you have to be paired wirelessly to a car, and then stuff essentially gets mirrored from your device there. If you don't have a phone, is it just like the stock Aston Martin UX at this point?
Yeah.
I think
And so that's the other thing, is that like there's also a big kind of argument between like car buyers and automakers in terms of like, and then we've seen this most kind of heatedly recently with GM, where they kind of pulled Apple CarPlay and Android Auto support because they wanted to have their homegrown UI front and center.
Terrible move.
And so like my thought on this is that if you have a really good infotainment system with a really good UI and a really good interface, you don't need Apple CarPlay or Android Auto because you have a really good system built into the car. And so you just, hey, you can, connect Bluetooth, so you can answer phones and do some texting and stuff like that. But it's kind of like, remember when they had the Motorola Atrix, and the whole idea was like, you're going to have a laptop, but it's going to be powered by your phone. You're going to put your phone into a laptop. To me, that doesn't work. In a lot of ways, having a car tethered to your phone is sort of the same thing. The reason why it works on cars is because automakers were just so bad at making their own UIs and infotainment systems that the alternative was Apple and Google and just doing it better and more consistently. And so I just want car makers to get better in general at doing a good UI. Everyone talks about, despite Elon's craziness, the Tesla infotainment system is really, really good. And Rivian's is like kind of getting there. And
Which
Lucid is also
CarPlay or Android Auto. You can only use their stuff. Yeah.
Correct. And same thing for the Lucid. Lucid is, really good. And when you have a really good infotainment system, you don't need help from your phone. But if you're like Aston Martin and maybe want to focus more on the design and, the powertrain of a car and let kind of Apple handle some of the framework for the infotainment, that makes sense to me. And I can see giving them more control over multiple screens and having, more ability to customize things as they want without necessarily having to design and program every single app. That makes a lot of sense to me.
There's a cost to it too, though. Like the original Tesla market were wealthy people. The Rivian market is wealthy people, and when you have a car that is doing its own stuff, it also needs its own internet connection because it's not getting it from your phone. So there's another monthly fee for you. I don't know how many people would enjoy paying another subscription just for their car's data. Whereas the easiest thing in the world is to plug in your phone or do the wireless connection and get what you need from your phone. The thing with the 5G antenna that you're already paying $100 to $200 a month for. I feel like that's the big draw for the other styles here. But I guess we will see. Are there any Aston Martin owners or would-be owners listening to the show? Let us know. You probably
maybe take us for a ride.
Adopt me, please. I want to see your devices.
Oh boy.
Those are that's a cool car. The weirdest thing, Sam, is I've seen occasionally like James Bond cars, like James Bond level Aston Martins. They're used like $30,000 to $40,000. Like, oh, that's within.
Oh, the depreciation on used like super premium luxury cars is nuts.
But also, what's the maintenance on that? What's the repair cost on that? You can buy one of those cars, but you cannot actually get them
Yeah,
repaired.
you got to be careful, or else that car can turn into a money pit real quick.
Yeah. Another thing we want to shout out, Mr. Steve Dent, our resident camera guy and drone guy, has reviewed the DJI Mavic 4 Pro. He called
Yeah.
it standard for consumer drones. He loves this thing.
God, yeah,
The Adam 100 editor's choice for us. They have been so good. DJI has been so good with these drones and these cameras too, like just a 1-2 punch.
yeah.
I
So
feel
this
like
one,
it's better and better.
Steve calls it the most technologically advanced drone.
Mm.
Not only hyping or really being very excited for the video and photo quality, also the low light performance, and like the obstacle avoidance and detection is quite good. There's just a couple of complaints that Steve had, but I think his biggest word of caution is that it's not available in the US. So that's with a lot of the headwind sort of considerations, tariffs, and like whether there will be a DJI ban in this country are things in the way. But if you are looking for like the highest end drone that would take the best sort of aerial footage, this would be it if you can get it. So yeah, it's kind of sad, right? Like I just would like to get a DJI Neo or like the step up from that. I forget the name. There's so many.
Yeah.
The Neo, the $200 drone that takes decent 1080p video while screaming like a banshee. Yeah, I love that. I love that one.
Like banshees. It's the whole thing. Yeah, the DJI stuff, because of our stupid all the tariff mess, it's been harder and harder to get their things. This thing looks fantastic though. When the initial Trump tariff stuff happened, like I was saying, like there are some devices we would just have to say goodbye to for a while. And
drones, drones were one of them.
Drones are one of them, and also DJI is one of them. I have like the DJI like handheld camera too, which shot up $200 since I bought it. Apparently.
Oh, the Osmo, yeah.
Osmo,
Thankfully we had that.
Before. So this thing's cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Steve is based in France, and Steve is living in a wonderland.
Yeah, randomly a chateau in his life, just cool. I love it. Good for you.
Live your best life, Steve, and he is. He absolutely is.
There's been a lot of like interesting gadgets announced this week. In fact, this week has been quite the slog in our industry. There's been a lot of embargoes that lifted this week, including Sony Xperia had announced a new phone that borrows from its classic or iconic device, the Walkman. I know, Sam, we don't really cover Xperia phones very much these days because their availability in the US is very limited. But would you, if given the chance, want to review a Sony Xperia phone?
Sure. I really like Xperia phones, but I don't understand Sony's like business strategy because they keep coming out with new Xperias and they always have really cool features, but they're not really available here. They're not available from any of the carriers. So you always have to get a third party. And just like, especially in the US, this is very different in Europe and Asia. There's just like almost no support or marketing or anything in the way of just like discovery for Xperia phones. And so it's like, and they always have really cool hardware, but one of the biggest knock against Sony phones for a long time is that it have really cool hardware and components, and then the polish on that would just be never as good. A lot of the sensors that are in even Samsung phones and other big flagship phones, those are Sony sensors.
Yeah, exactly.
But because like Samsung and Google and others have better processing, they get better results even though they're using the same sensor that Sony puts in its own phones. And it's just it's really frustrating. There was a time back when Sony Xperias were like top tier. It's like, right up against Samsung and Apple and Google, and then they just kind of stopped trying, I feel like.
Some interesting comments saying Sony still makes phones. Who knew? And Tom Rogers is like, Sony is always going to Sony. I remember when like Sony's Xperia, I want to say one of the mid 2010 ones, did the super slow-mo high frame rate ones for the first time on a phone, which was really cool.
Yep, and they peaked with the Z3 line. And then they I believe they were the first phone to support like full water resistance. They got into a little bit legal trouble because they kind of the marketing overstepped the capabilities, but I think they were one of the phones where like, you could just dunk a phone in a pool and it would be fine. And so they actually remember way back before Apple did the action button or the camera button,
Right. Exactly.
Sony
They had
had a
yeah.
dedicated shutter button on like
Yeah.
the Z1 or Z2, and it's like that stuff is like 10, 15 years old at this point.
So just to actually give the details of this week's news to our listeners and viewers, Sony's Xperia 1 Mark or 7 VII, I guess, features hi-fi sound tech from the Walkman line. It's also got auto framing camera technology inspired by its Alpha line of cameras. And I think that's the thing Sony has done well with the Xperia phones is make them really good content creation and multimedia consumption devices. They've also got some PlayStation sort of integration. I don't know how good or well
Yeah, there's some like
that is.
remote play like Wi-Fi
Yeah.
streaming capabilities.
Yeah.
But
Which
like there
is
was
the PS5.
like
Yeah.
2 or 3 years ago, there was a really cool Xperia phone that had a built-in like really high-powered 5G modem and an HDMI port on it.
Yeah,
And so
I
but
remember.
it was like really expensive, and it was really strictly meant for photographers, but they were giving them to like cameramen on the NFL sidelines, and they were
Holy.
tethering their
Mhm.
Sony cameras, digital cameras, to the Sony phone, and they were
Wow.
streaming directly to NFL broadcast. And
Power
that was
device.
really, really cool. But
Yeah.
you only hear it's like it's so inside baseball that you don't really hear about it. And it's like there's a lot of cool stuff that Sony does that like they
Yeah.
aren't able to like bring to the mainstream in a way that other companies are. It's really
And
sad.
their actual product decisions too are kind of baffling. Like I think we're all waiting for like their new headphones will be announced sometime soon. Everyone's waiting to hear about that. But then there's stuff like the freaking neck speakers, Sony, which
Oh God.
and I apparently that has become a thing which other people are making too. But they announced neck speakers, and that was like almost 10 years ago, and they
That's so
sounded
funny.
bad. They were hard to use. They didn't support
Yeah.
Bluetooth. It's just like level after level of like good consumer electronics they just keep failing at. It is wild.
Yeah.
It's wild like how something
But
keeps missing like this.
so that the headphones you're mentioning, Devendra, I believe would be the WH-1000XM series, the X
The
series.
XM6.
And we're currently at Mark V. And what has it been, 3 years since the Mark V? So it's basically high time for an update. But anyway, the details on the Xperia 1 7 are on the Engadget website, written by Steve Dent. So this is going to give you all the camera and the audio hi-fi quality details in there. But yeah, 48 megapixel camera, you've got like
Yeah.
improved audio quality. Speaking of audio and speakers, really quickly wanted to shout out the news that XMEMS, I know you've covered them before, Devendra.
I'm really wondering why. Okay, you're excited about this? They're tiny speakers.
I just think it's funny. They've come up with this technology that puts like really tiny speakers for your wrist-worn wearables. So I guess we get better sound quality when we're talking to our watches. Listen. Apple did this with the Watch Ultra 2, I think, or the most recent update to the Watch series last iPhone event. And I really remember asking, who wants this? I guess if you want it, you got it. So yeah, XMEMS might be integrating this technology, or other people might be able to use this technology in their smartwatches in future. There's still plenty of other hardware news for the week, but I think we have other non-hardware news, right?
There's
Devendra.
hardware news. There's stuff I want to hit too. There's some stuff we're gonna skip. I don't. Hey, Google changed the color of its logo. There's a gradient now. Stupid. So stupid.
I just wanted to shout out that like our headline was awesome. It was just G is for gradient. Google changes its new logo, and that was great.
And it's good enough for me. Max, guess what, folks?
My God,
our long national nightmare.
I look at Sam face palming. That's so funny.
I don't think you can understand how hard I'm face palming at this. Devendra, please
How
finish.
hard your hair has been ruined, Sam. Like
yeah, no.
You're a mess right
Go
now.
ahead. Let our misery expands to the audience.
So remember a couple years ago when HBO Max simply became Max, and we had many discussions about how dumb that was because the name brand of HBO is iconic, at least in America. Generations have nostalgia for that opening crawl to this, the movies from HBO. It was renamed to Max. They announced this week, our bad. HBO Max Max is now going to be HBO once again this summer. HBO Max.
Sawzy, it's HBO Max. Sorry. Like, whoops.
Sorry.
Our bad.
I'm sorry.
So ridiculous. The memes that were all over social media yesterday were great. We had, I think, even HBO Max's own like Threads account posted about it in kind of a tongue-in-cheek way. But I think one of my favorite memes One of my favorite memes was the 3 Spider-Men pointing at each other. One said Max, one said HBO Max, and one said HBO Go. And like, do not forget the HBO Go app.
Listen, that was a whole other thing. Like HBO had the service for subscribers to HBO on cable. They could log in and watch stuff digitally. But if you don't have an HBO cable account, we have this other thing for you to subscribe to. Then that all became HBO Max, right?
He was slowly staring at his hands, shaking his head, looking extremely depressed. I kind of love it.
What's great about this, though, is that this extremely boneheaded move that nobody could have predicted was a bad idea. The people in charge who actually made this decision, they're fine. David Zaslav, like, he is totally fine. He's untouchable. He's making, believe over $50 million a year. All of his great decisions are just keep coming back and rewarding him. So
I don't understand. Zaslav is a scourge on the content, TV, movie, streaming industry. The dude is out there just canceling movies left and right. Remember, Devindra, it was a Batgirl or a Batwoman movie that was done, and they're just like, nah, we're not releasing it. It was like, what? Like, in what? In like,
yeah.
And it's like, this is like some like overcomplicated scheme to recoup some taxes by claiming a movie is a loss, and it's just like, hey, just release the stuff. You know, like let the people who are good at making the content just let them do their thing, and then stop messing with them.
He came over from the whole Discovery merger, I believe. Like, he is more of a reality TV guy. He is not a high quality programming guy, which is why I don't think he can care too much about changing.
I love the way you just said this guy has awful taste.
He does have awful taste.
You said it nicely.
A lot of money and very influential, unfortunately. Yeah.
I just want to point out that in the article written by our writer Andre, this is Max's second renaming in 3 years. It's some people in our chat are also making extremely good comments, which is Brandon Styles says in 2029 HBO will rebrand to HBO Pro Max, and Declan followed up with HBO Max Ultra will have fewer movies and TV shows because Ultra means thinner. Tom Rogers says next move HBO minimum min. It's just ridiculous. Paradise says they did it just so people would talk about them. Do you think that's true?
I think they definitely saw consumer confusion. I think they saw people wondering, like, where the heck is my HBO stuff? Because there was an older audience into this too. Do not forget that HBO Max, when it launched, was also a disaster. Like, it crashed. It was not a smooth launch. They didn't have a lot of content.
Game of Thrones was way too dark.
Yeah, well, that's
a different thing,
but yeah, there were many issues, and essentially they had to rebuild the streaming platform a little bit anyway. So the rebranding kind of came alongside that. Anyway, HBO Max is back, folks. The one to watch for HBO once again this summer. Let's see what David Zaslav will screw up next. Yeah, in one fun story that we saw, it turns out scientists found that lead really can be turned into gold. The alchemists were right. You just need help from the Large Hadron Collider, and they only did it for a fraction of a second. This is true transmutation, something people have been exploring for thousands of years. For a fraction of a second, it was possible.
Alchemist stone, baby.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's go full metal alchemist over here. Just be careful who is next to you when you transmute things. Let's move on to what's around Engadget. Sherlyn, you want to talk about Chris's TikTok story?
I just think it's a funny story about TikTok adding in an AI-powered image sort of video feature. And she tried it out. It says an image to video feature. Basically, you can feed it pictures and it'll just generate a clip out of it. And she tested it out on her cat. And it just did something weird to her cat. I like that. Like, right, you can just write the straight story. However, it turned her cat into this, I don't know what you would call this animation style, but it became a biped cat, right? It's like a running.
It turned into a furry.
Oh my gosh.
It's a furry running, and then it's a cat with wine glasses.
Yeah, Krista posted the full thing on the article. The videos are there. They're hilarious. They're a beautiful, like a Friday unwinding sort of thing to play around with if you have TikTok, and or if you don't want to use it yourself, you can watch the videos on our site. It's so
horrifying. Like a lovely video, a lovely picture of your cat. Your cat's walking to you, turns into a full-size man. Like, this is a furry dream, or a
standing on 2 feet.
Standing on 2 feet.
I would just be really careful about watching AI generated stuff
yeah.
on social media. I watched one like AI generated thing of like, look at these like we use AI to like convert Dragon Ball Z characters into like a real life casting.
Oh yeah.
Now
Yeah.
my whole YouTube feed is that, and I was like,
Yep.
it's, okay, I'll never make that mistake again.
I think you
I
can.
saw.
You can delete your history with that video, Sam. So you don't,
Yes.
it doesn't.
Yeah,
Remove
it's just
watch
like
history on that one.
I just realized as soon as I'd done this, I had already dug myself into like extra work, and I was like, I don't need this.
So this is the TikTok AI Alive feature. It will animate your photos for you. To your point, Sam, one of the best users of AI I think I saw was and I'm sure you guys have seen this too. Someone used AI to reimagine the whole Titanic movie, except for seeing them as Gen Z people instead. Which is wild. They actually use like almost photorealistic characters based on Kate Winslet and Leonardo DiCaprio's faces. It's quite cool.
Every time somebody shares that stuff, I'm like, it's very much like, oh, it's cool that you're doing that. Don't show me any of this stuff. Don't show me any of it. As
Yeah.
like, interesting as it seems to you, Sam. You did hands-on with the Lucid Gravity, which you're calling the coolest 3-row EV on the market. It's beginning to become a crowded market, like with Rivian out there, with more companies kind of doing the EV9 is out there. How did you like this one?
And that's one of the reasons why I kind of like the Gravity, because the Rivian is like, very much an off-roady like sort of thing, and Lucid actually says that like the Gravity does have some like off-road capabilities, but I like it because I live in the city, and it just feels like really buttoned up, and it's like it's a really long car, but because you have stuff like optional rear wheel steering and stuff like that, it drives really well. It has air suspension, has standard air suspension, but there's can get an upgraded version if you pay for that too. And it's one of the nicest ride qualities I've ever been in on any car, EV or gas. And it just like it just makes really makes really good use of space. The front, you can buy an optional pad that turns it into basically a love seat, but then it also folds into like a grocery kind of organizer when you're not using it, sitting in it. They just done like a really good attention to detail.
Big, yeah.
The panel roof goes all the way into the windshield, so you just look up. Even a lot of cars like the glass roof for the driver, you can't see much. Not on the Lucid Gravity.
This is like future car to me, so there's no separation between your roof and your windshield.
Yeah. And so it's just like it's really both the front and the second row seats are heated. And so they did a really good job, and I just think it's a nice looking car. There is some like weird boomer design tendencies, where like there's a little bit too much shiny chrome. And the
Did
colors,
you say boomer design tendencies?
Yeah. Go look at the colors. The colors are black, silver,
my uncle's car,
the dull olive, and like brown bronze. And it's just like give me a decent selection of colors besides just like white and black and olive green.
I have to shout out that
go
sunroof picture of yours, Sam, where you added the beautiful caption of "the sky was cloudy that day." Just ace work.
Yeah. I mean, obviously the big issue is that this thing,
Gorgeous.
at least the initial model that's on sale right now, the Grand Touring spec, to about 80 to 85. But until Lucid finally comes out with their kind of mid-size SUV, they're not going to really, get a lot of that mainstream love in the way that I think the company would like to have, just because they're trying to ramp up volume and production and stuff like that.
You say don't call the minivan, Sam, but I look at this thing and I look at how long it is. This is a goddamn minivan. This is a minivan. What are they kidding?
You were not the first person to call this thing a minivan, and I would not blame anyone else for calling it a minivan too. The only thing it doesn't have is sliding doors,
which
because
is
it is really long. It has 3 rows. Yeah, absolutely.
Fully accept it, man. Fully accept what you are. Be a minivan, because those actual sliding doors are great.
Originally I wanted to call this thing the coolest minivan on the road right now, and Lucid is like a little, and I think all our makers to a certain extent are a little touchy about calling something a minivan, because minivans just kind of have a bad rap. You get that like stereotype of it's the soccer wagon to take the kids to practice, whatever, and so I also forgot to mention this thing has, I think it's 840 something horsepower as a 0 to 60 time of 3.4 seconds. That's faster than a lot of supercars, just straight up.
Wow.
That is That is
Go
wild. I know a lot
definitely
of
go check out like Sam's piece for the the photos that
Yep.
have the
It's gonna be
colors,
very
which
good.
Yeah, it also has
Paradise
a
says are iPhone Pro
450
colors.
mile range, one of the highest ranges of any EV, and
Yeah.
it has the fastest charging of any EV outside of China. So it really, I really feel like Lucid has kind of put it all together. I think it looks nice. It drives incredibly. It's super fast, and it's got great range. And so, what's the biggest knock against EVs is that they're not good for road trips. That is clearly not true with the Lucid Gravity.
Mm.
It's a cool car. It is a dream car to many people I know. Some people I know who own Rivians are still drooling after this thing. I'm like, shut up. You have an R1S. You're not allowed to drool after another EV. Real quick too, just kind of did a preview for FBC Firebreak. This is the
Yes.
sort of this is a co-op shooter in the world of Control, the Federal Bureau of Control. Looks really cool. She's calling it Controlled Chaos, and it just needs a bit of polish, even though it's a lot of fun. As somebody who's obsessed with Control, I love Control. I love Alan Wake 2. I love everything Remedy has been doing. This looks really cool. Although I don't know if it needed to be a co-op shooter, but I guess sure, that's what people are playing now. Sure, people are playing co-op shooters. It looks cool. That's all I have to say. Let's move on real quick to a piece of listener email. Wes from Dallas Fort Worth. Thank you so much for sending this. It's a bunch of questions about the Switch 2. I will say this to anybody sending in questions. We cannot predict what companies do. Like we don't send us questions related to things that could be knowable or guessable.
Things
I guess.
we've reported
we're
on.
always going to try our best to answer your questions, but some of the information just is not out there.
So some things we just can't answer. Some things, listen, I ask when we talk to these companies, we ask them these very obvious things. And Nintendo, Apple, a lot of these folks are very weird, and they just don't say things to it. Like they will not admit certain things. So Wes had a couple of questions. Can you connect better quality cameras to it, like the Insta360 Link 2? I don't know. I think because the Nintendo camera is USB, I had seen some reports that maybe other webcams could be supported.
Yeah,
certainly not the tracking that's in the Insta360. What's up, Sam?
So definitely, there are going to be multiple camera options beside just the first party Nintendo camera. There was one, I can't remember the manufacturer, but there's a camera that works with the Switch 2 that looks like a piranha plant. That's really cool. And so there are going to be other options. It's just you kind of have to wait until that kind of accessory ecosystem gets out there.
Yep. Also, question about can a microphone be used for better audio quality because it has 2 extra USB ports? We don't know. We don't really know until we start seeing these things. I don't know if they mentioned it, Sam, but also
I think theoretically that there's nothing that would stop the Switch from accepting a third-party microphone. Same thing for a wireless mouse and keyboard. I think that support technically is there. It's just whether Nintendo will approve that. Yeah.
Can a hub or dock be used to connect multiple devices? Nintendo has not said this, but this is not how Nintendo works when it comes to Switches or for other things like that. Do multiple people in a living room playing together, do they each need their own cameras? From what we saw from the footage, it looked like it was splicing up camera footage.
Yeah, I actually have an actual answer for that. If you're playing in a room with multiple people and you have like a single Switch 2 camera, you only need one camera. Good. So that camera can track multiple people at the same time. And what they do is like kind of they track your face and they do a cutout and they kind of superimpose that into the game itself. So you only need one camera.
Some of the footage they showed was super grainy. Like it looked really bad, but it was because they were taking a fairly low res camera and just like chopping it up. So that wasn't too.
Yeah, and that was sort of my experience at all. You can see the kind of like individual pixels. You can see how it's getting like digitally enhanced and stuff like that. But you do only need one camera for that.
Yeah. They also ask, can external SSDs be used to store games? But I don't know what they said about external.
I don't think so. But that this is still yet to be confirmed.
Yet to be confirmed. It would be interesting if you could just like have storage connected to the dock, and when you dock it, you'll have those games, and when you're handheld, you don't have those games. That would be nice. And certainly the tech is there to do it. Mario Paint 2. Wes is also asking, yes, would we all love to see Mario Paint 2? They have a freaking mouse. You remember Mario Paint 2?
Right.
The
Joy-Cons can be used as mice. I think a Mario Paint 2 is a slam dunk. They haven't officially said anything, but I'm pretty sure it's going to happen.
Do it, Nintendo. Like they ship Mario Paint with a mouse for the Super Nintendo, and that thing was terrible to use, but I had so much fun with it.
They even gave you a plastic mouse pad that was one of the worst mouse pads ever made. Because I had one and I hated it.
I remember.
Hey,
Yep.
speaking of the SSDs question for the Switch 2, I just want to point out that because it made me think, like, do you need storage on your game? I recently fired up my Switch 2, sorry,
Mhm.
don't have a Switch 2, sorry guys. But like it updated and it's doing the virtual game cards thing. And
Mhm.
I don't know if that means what that means for the storage. It does mean that like you have to
They can
download games
definitely solve some of
again.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I can see why the SSD would be helpful. However, I do want to point out that if you come back to Engadget.com either tomorrow or over the weekend, we will probably have some kind of tutorial on virtual game cards. I know that it's been, frustrating for some people, but it's quite like I don't know. I linked it to a Switch that wasn't mine. I linked my account to a Switch that wasn't mine, and then came back and was like, "Where did all my games go?" So I
Yeah.
was quite upset. I couldn't play Overcooked on my own anymore. It's really upsetting.
They need to rework that whole system, like primary
Yeah.
and secondary switches and everything.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, thank you, Wes, for the question. Hopefully we answered what we could. There will be more answers soon as like coverage into the Switch 2 happens, as more people get to play with it. I think I just saw, what was it? The Digital Foundry, I think, had more details about the actual hardware behind the Switch
Mhm.
2. So, stuff is being revealed over time. Ask us more questions, folks. Podcast at Engadget.com. And if you have a question that you just want to send to Ask Engadget, what is that, Trillian?
It's
Is that
ask at Engadget.com.
So there's 2
I was like-
emails you could get to us. Yeah.
Also,
Mm-hmm.
hopefully everyone who wanted to pre-order a Switch got one. I did not. I don't know about
I did not.
Devindra. I don't know how lucky you were.
I did not. So who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? We shall see. And also, I will say, we will accept audio questions for the podcast. And
Oh my god, yeah, send a voice memo.
better. Send a voice memo. Hold that sucker close to your phone or to your mouth and just talk right into it. You will get good quality that way. I'd love to hear voice questions as well. Let's move on real quick to what we're working on. I'm working on a bunch of stuff. Sherlyn, anything you wanna highlight?
Yeah, just keep coming back to Engadget.com. I am working on an accessibility related Ask Engadget story, I believe. And then testing out some Nike Hyperice recovery boots. Hoping to write that up this week. I might not be able to because it's been incredibly intense couple of weeks. So
And it won't stop. Yeah.
Yeah, it won't stop.
Sam, anything for you?
Working on the S25 Edge review, and then I'm gonna follow it up with a review for the Moto Razr Ultra because, kind of like I said before, I think those two devices have more in common than people might necessarily think at first. So I really want to, kind of do a compare and contrast to see, which kind of like thin compact phone it makes the more compelling case.
Very
Nice.
cool. Very cool. Let's move on real quick to pop culture picks. Sherlyn, you said you have some surprises for us.
Yeah, I have some good surprises. I said I was playing on my Switch, not the Switch 2. I truly do not have it. Recently, my partner was recovering from surgery, and so boys will be boys, and they enjoy very specific games. I will like to shout out this very my toddler cousin would have loved this game. It is called Bus Driving Simulator on Nintendo Switch. Sam immediately facepalmed. The partner enjoyed it. You can drive a bus around Dubai, you can drive around London or Shanghai. Anyway, very realistic sounds, very realistic setup. I really enjoyed it myself, even though I'm actually really bad at driving it. And it's also a really quick way to see how it feels to drive on the left side or the right side of the street in different places. It's just that realistic. It was very confusing for me, the turnings.
Yeah.
And I also crashed into a lot of cars and people.
I feel
And
like
the
that game is it's perfect for you, Sherlyn, because you love to play
Yes.
monotonous games.
Oh,
Where
yeah.
it's just like, you're just
Yeah.
staring
I
at
know.
the screen. Yeah.
I told Sam this because we were starting out by playing Overcooked, and it was just not going how I wanted. As you can tell, Overcooked is a conflict heavy game. But anyway, I also have another surprise recommendation. This is a TV show, and it's actually being released right now in the weekly episodes on Apple TV Plus. It is called Long Way Home.
Yeah.
A series featuring Ewan McGregor riding his motorbike with his best friend Charlie Borman.
You do love your British men, Sherlyn.
He's Scottish. Ewan.
Scotland
Charlie
is
is
part
British.
of Britain.
Yeah, that is
guess,
technically
yeah.
Britain.
The accent is quite different. So basically in this particular version of the Long Way series, which this is I think the fourth installment, they're basically riding their bikes around Europe. But because it's not all out yet, we watched on Apple TV Plus as well Long Way Down, which sees the pair of them a lot younger, writing from the northern tip of Scotland. I forget the name. It's just 3 like English names. All the way down to Cape Town in South Africa. And on the way, they take a ferry. They basically do the entire ride on 2 wheels.
Their bikes right on the water. Amazing. Yeah.
Dude, it's just ridiculous. Not only the like motorbike journey of it and the like repairs and the trouble they went through, they can't ride really well in sand, etc., but also the people they meet and the stories they hear and the like UNICEF stuff that they do all through Africa. It was really eye-opening. So yeah, no, it's a documentary series that I quite enjoyed. So yes, Kevin says Long Way Home is pretty old. I think Long Way Home is the new one. You're thinking Long Way Round, or Long Way Round was the very first one where they rode from England to New York, but east, which is why they called it Long Way Around. And then there's Long Way Up and Long Way Down.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was my 2 picks because I don't need to save them anymore.
Okay, Sam, what do you got?
I'm still watching Andor. Really enjoying it.
Strap in.
Everybody should be watching that.
Mm-hmm. But you're watching season 2, right? Or have you got?
Yeah. And Andor season 2. I'm still kind of working my way through it, but yeah, definitely.
The finale just hit. We republished the review I wrote of it. What a season of TV! What a jewel this thing is, and we'll probably.
And I'm also trying to keep pace with The Rehearsal. Which is completely bonkers, but the lengths that Nathan, I can't remember his last name, goes through
Fielder.
To like, Nate Fielder goes to like really just go ham on a bit, even to like the most extreme conclusion. I appreciate the dedication.
It's great. Sherlyn, I feel like that's up your alley just in terms of how crazy it goes.
People keep telling me to watch it for sure.
You should watch it, and don't listen to anything. Don't read reviews. Don't read any discussions about it. Just go into it for the full weirdness. I'm gonna quickly shout out Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. I wrote a review of this for us. I saw it at a screening earlier this week. I love this franchise. I love this franchise so much. On my movie podcast, we reviewed like all of the movies when they did the 4K upscale. I have to say I'm a little disappointed with this one, especially because it may be the end of the Ethan Hunt story. I will not get into spoilers here, but in the last movie, it was a mess because they made it amidst the pandemic. There's a lot of the main plot was against AI. They fully turned into science fiction. I think that was a huge mistake because it kind of just changed the stakes of what the series is doing. And this latest one is like, yeah, you got to stop the AI. And also now for some reason, Ethan Hunt is like the Messiah. Like he's the only person on Earth who can save us.
That's
like,
so ridiculous.
I mean, that's kind of up Tom Cruise's alley, to be
honest.
honest.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
It is. But also, this entire series, he has at least challenged himself with directors who were good at like tamping that down. Like it was always a vanity project, but they were doing interesting stuff. There was teamwork.
Right.
It was about family. It was about #family. Really, this one is very much not that, but also there are some great stunts. There is some like great Mission Impossible level stuff here. It takes very long to get there. Yeah.
Now that song's gonna be stuck in all your heads.
We're never gonna get back to like the greatness of Rogue Nation or Fallout or Ghost Protocol, and that's a damn shame. I just kind of miss that. So
yeah.
Yep. I mean, if you're a fan of the series, definitely check it out. It's definitely some of the best action filmmaking you'll see this year. But yeah, it's a shame. I'm disappointed.
Declan in the chat says Tom Cruise does have an AI quality to him.
He does. There
you go.
Also, one thing I'm gonna ruin Tom Cruise for everybody. His tooth is in the middle. One of his front teeth is in the middle, very middle of his face. It's not like on either side like most people.
The gap's not the thing in the middle, right?
Yeah, the gap is not dead center in the middle. So congratulations to everybody. Hope you look at Tom Cruise just a little bit differently.
You can't unsee it now.
That may help his symmetry. Like that's been his calling card for a while. But anyway, I think we can wrap.
Yeah. I will do the outro now, but then there is something I want to flag after that we might add back into the episode, Ben. Let's see.
Okay.
Well, that's it for this week's episode, everyone. Thank you as always for listening. Our theme music is by game composer Dale North. Our outro music is by our former managing editor, Terrence O'Brien. The podcast is produced by Ben Ellman. You can find Sam online at
Sam Rutherford on X, but I'm still waiting for people to tweet at me on Blue Sky, okay? Give me a reason to use Blue Sky.
What is it on Blue Sky?
You get to start talking.
Also at Sam Rutherford.
Just hack your
.bsky.social, I'm
Yeah.
assuming. Devindra, where can people find you online?
At Devindra on Blue Sky, and also at the Filmcast at thefilmcast.com.
If you want to send me any of your like exciting motorcycle discoveries, I guess you can send them to me on Blue Sky. I'm at sherlyn.bsky.social, CHERLYNN. But I'm probably more easily findable on Threads, which were your favorite podcast platforms.
All right. So yeah, I saw the Sony thing hit. Sherlyn, do you want to
Exactly.
join for this, or do you want to
That's
leave?
what I wanted to mention. Yeah. So yeah, now that it's past 12 p.m., our review of the Sony WH-1000XM6 is live. This is the gold benchmark, basically, right? Like the gold standard for headphones, over-ear headphones. And now that it's been 3 years since the Mark V, the Mark VI is out, and our Billy Steele reviewed it, he like says you just keep iterating better. You keep making the best thing better.
Let's do a full like actual chat about this thing too. So do you want to step
I actually quite enjoyed how we said something like come back to this, because we did say like, oh, come back to the site, but we can
we can add in here, but you have to leave in 5 minutes. So do you want
I know we can do a 1 minute chat if you want.
Okay. We'll see how it goes, because then we can just add this in here. Let's cut this in as we're coming in from the future. How about that?
Okay.
Well,
Sounds good.
Yeah. So I'll put that in.
Do it like
because, like Sherlyn was talking about the WXM anyway.
So we'll take it back up. So yeah, we are coming back into this part of the chat from the future where we can now publicly talk about Sony. The WH-1000XM6 headphones have actually been announced today, and our full review is on the site. Our Billy Steele reviewed it. He actually thinks, Sony just keeps improving on the best headphones in the market, over-ear headphones. These are the gold standard, really. They are a bit more expensive, $50 more expensive than the previous model. No real answer as to why there's a huge increase in price. I don't know. I can't blame it on tariffs is all I'm saying. But yeah, the quality continues to be good. The noise cancellation has been improved. We've got a slightly refined design that Billy says is more comfortable. All in all, I mean, just go check out our full review for all the little details like that. You've got the same sort of 30-hour battery life here as well. So nothing's really changed there. But I mean, if you've been looking for great over-ear headphones, check out our review and maybe these are the ones for you.
Yeah, Billy says it has improved sound, better ANC, handy features, and it's comfy. This looks exactly like the XM5s, which I really like. They
I bought my wife a pair of XM5s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. So the XM5s, with the XM5s, I think Sony took away the ability to fold the cups sort of with the handle, and then they've brought this back. There is a little bit of a quirk that Billy didn't like about it, though. So go read.
So folding is back. I would say for the sound, Billy says that there are new drivers in here for improved sound quality
and more mics for ANC.
I think Sony is seeing like people are paying a lot of money for those freaking AirPods Max, and Apple has not touched them in years. So I think Sony's just like, we can go up, we can go higher. They've already done it with the PlayStations 2. You can still readily buy older versions of these headphones too. So I would not recommend going back too far back. Like the 4s are still really good. The 5 with the redesign, if you don't mind that you can't fold it, I think are great. Like those sound great.
Yeah.
I also want to call 2 things out. So the AirPod Maxes are still $100 more. They start at $550. And so that is like that makes the AirPod Maxes a really hard sell, even with the new Sonys being more expensive. But also, they finally fixed my biggest gripe about all of Sony's things, is that you can use them while they're charging now. You couldn't do that before.
Oh my god!
I was so happy to hear that, and I feel bad for my wife because she complains sometimes they die on her in the middle of like a conference call, and then she has to like switch to some other headphones.
It's such a Sony problem of just like, this is such an easy UX fix. This is bothering everybody. It's been years. Please fix.
So they finally fixed it. So I might actually buy some for myself. I don't know.
There you go.
Well, there you go.
Headphones, but weirdly, I'm also like weirdly. I look at the AirPods Max. I'm like, this would also be nice. It would also be nice to have like something that easily shifts between phone, computer, everything. We shall see. But anyway, check out Billy's review of the XM1006, the 1000 XM6, Sony's latest headphones. Check them out.
Okay, we got that Goodbye, Sherlyn.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, I just want to say,
Go.
dude named Charlie, PX8 for the win. The Bowers and Wilkin, yeah, I mean, if you want sound quality, it sounds like they're the top ones to consider.
Bowers is always good. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Also,
stop.
I'm mad at Sony. They changed they changed their naming scheme for all of their home theater and TV stuff. Change the name for the headphones. Damn it! No one likes saying
We were talking
1000
about
XM6.
this. Yes.
It's dumb. Please,
Just call them
Sony.
the XM6. You could just call them something
Yeah,
like
exactly.
You don't need the 1000 anymore. Yeah, absolutely.
what's going on. We can
What
chat,
episode was
chat for a
this?
bit.
268.
Thank you.
268.
All right. Well, I am going to take off. I have a bunch of meetings. Thank you all
Alright.
very much. And yeah, it's nice to see everybody. D-Man. We didn't see Mark Dell today. Declan, Kevin says Paradise. I'm just gonna do my own goodbyes. Tom Rogers, Solidus T, Brandon Styles, dude named Charlie. Bye bye.
Bye. Chat, we can stick around for a bit. Does anybody have other questions?
Oh,
yeah.
We didn't talk about the two trailers that dropped yesterday for Ironheart and Superman.
I still haven't seen the Ironheart one.
Oh
because
yeah, I haven't seen the
have
Ironheart
no
one
faith
either.
in the Marvel TV shows. Like at this point, just like I don't know what you're doing. The Daredevil reboot was good, but it also just kind of ended in a weird way. Superman, that's a good trailer. That is a good trailer, but also I'm worried that people will not be hyped for this movie.
I'm so conflicted because I still don't know how I feel about the new Superman because they keep changing Supermans all the time and it's too much. But they had Crypto, the little super dog, was in there. So that was pretty
in the
cute.
first teaser. He's there from he was the first thing we saw of this new Superman, dragging Superman out from the snow.
I just think it's crazy that James Gunn,
James Gunn.
his brother, the more famous director brother, James Gunn.
Sean Gunn is in all the movies because they're bros. Yeah.
Yeah. And Sean Gunn was the one in Gilmore Girls.
Yes.
But I just think that it's so strange, but also like a great turn of events that he has become the kind of like Joss Whedon of the DC universe. But let's hope all of the other stuff with Joss Whedon that's not the case with James Gunn.
From what I hear, not as much, but no, I follow James Gunn since he was making like shitty little indie movies.
This guy started at Troma Studios.
Troma. He is a very much a indie movie guy. So to see him go like there was Super, the one, his like really low budget indie superhero movie, which is
that was like the really violent one too, right?
Super violent, ultra violent. He did Slither with Nathan Fillion, who's also in the Superman and looking wonderfully campy. So like it is wild to have followed the indie careers of so many people. Like I did that for Ryan Johnson, for this guy, for so many folks, and to see them like skyrocket so high up, it is wild. I hope this movie is good. I don't know.
I will say I like the suit, what they showed of the suit in Ironheart. I think it looks awesome. But like you said, I feel like the Disney Plus Marvel like TV series are so hit or miss that I just have no idea what to expect anymore.
I'm surprised they're still making it because Ironheart was announced way back when things were good for them. So we shall see. The new Daredevil is a lot of fun. I just wish.
I was really. Daredevil's probably the best Marvel TV thing that they've done yet.
The newest, of the new ones, yeah.
But Ironheart is, I think, executive produced by Ryan Coogler. Is that true?
Yes. I believe so, yeah.
What I would really like to see, because I saw Sinners just last night. Crazy movie. Excellent movie. I think it was like an actual movie where a lot of stuff that you see in theaters is content, but like that is not a new opinion. What I really want to see is either a movie or a series about the Native American vampire hunters.
Sure.
That is there's an indie series that kind of has some of that right now. I have to look up the name of it, but that exists. That does also exist. One thing, I mean, slight spoilers of Sinners. One of my favorite things was, we'll give you one warning. That's it. We're gone. I'm not going to help you. I warned you. I'm not coming back to help you.
They literally showed up to this house and they were like, hey, we're looking for this guy. He's really dangerous. And they were like, no, we're not going to do anything. And then his buddy's like, it's getting dark. And they're like, all right, creator be with you. Goodbye.
My job here is done. I see your costume in the back. Yeah. Great movie. I hope you stayed for the first end credit scene.
Oh yeah, I stayed for the whole thing. I was sat until the lights came up.
Great movie. Coogler is such a genius. Chat, anything else? You want to see the phone? We do have the phone. We'll be winding things down here really soon. Oh, yep.
Oh yeah. If you want to show the phone off, Sam,
Yes,
I've
please.
Yes.
soloed you right now.
Okay. So here's the phone. Like I said, I have not even set it up yet. I played, with the demo, but there we go. There's your side profile.
How's side view with like
Hold
a
it up like
phone?
really close to the camera, like gratuitously close.
No, then you lose focus.
It doesn't focus. So here's not another Samsung phone. So here's a Google. Wait.
Okay.
Yeah, a standard Pixel 9.
Oh yeah, that's noticeable.
Okay,
Almost
and
like
all of the Google devices in my house just flipped out, but that's okay.
Your camera's doing a very good job of focusing on these two thin planes too.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's probably a good comparison. It's definitely thinner, noticeably thinner than everything else there. But how much are you willing to pay to get that?
Yeah,
that's the question.
I feel like it's going to be a bigger deal when it's like the standard, when that is just all the S25s or less like that.
Sure.
That's kind of how I felt with the iPad Pros, right? It's like
Yeah.
already a premium device, so it's like okay, their next premium device just became super thin.
The one funny thing about all this is that for the big rumors are about the iPhone Air, and it's like we're still waiting to get that, and so it's like it's weird to see that like Samsung got their thing out before the iPhone Air. And so that kind of like throws the like trend on its face a little bit, but yeah.
Samsung can move faster than Apple can, and Apple's just too slow at all this stuff. Like how many iterations are they into foldables at this point? And Apple's still, I'm sure, just researching it. So we shall see.
The rumors are next year is obviously very much unconfirmed, but the rumors are next year we may have some concrete info about an Apple foldable.
We shall see. We'll see how exciting that is, folks. I don't know. Go watch some movies. There's a lot of good stuff. Summer movie season is kicking off.
And one other quick thing to point. So notice the phone is very thin, but you still get a pretty big camera bump. So that is the thing.
I feel like the big leap forward will be when we can erase the camera bumps and keep a certain level of thinness. Like the iPad Pros, because they're so big and there's so much of it without the camera, it feels overall more thin than you'd expect, I guess. I am talking myself into buying one of those. I need to stop this. Hello, folks. Thank you all for joining us. Ben, you can do the honors.
Okay, thank you so much for watching, everybody. Camera switching by me, OBS by Devindra. You make us smarter. It's just so much fun, like getting input from the chat. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week. This has been a long stream.
This has been a long one. We've been here for a while. Thank you, folks.